GoFundMe DeCastro Ranker Fund falls hard to us? Jose Chile de Castro's tales of being the world's best fundraising expert fell by the wayside yet again on Saturday as our own ongoing expenses fund defeated his Push to the Moon campaign for Press with Rancor by a mere $2. For years, we've been hearing that DeCastro has the ability to pull in millions and millions of dollars, as he was an ad executive in New York for over a decade. Side note, it's one of his 5 decades alive and fits in somewhere with living in Las Vegas for 20 years and California for 20 years at the same time. And he says he's run companies with multi-million-dollar budgets and blah 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 go Chile. Earlier in the year, we wouldn't question it. He was riding high at one point. He found people who he could get $6,000 a month out of to pay Press with Rancor's legal bills, and not much more. When he wants to, or times of major events in his life, like going to jail and getting out of jail, he still can manage to pull in $3,000 at a time, or $4,558 in his latest post-release campaign, out of the $100,000 he requested. He still has it in him to perform on a mid to lower level and exploit his audience and exploit them hard for money. But he has to be consistent. He has to put in the work and continue to drive people to his fundraising efforts. He can't just do one fundraiser if he wants to make a dent in the $30,000 he still owes for Press with Rancor's defense. He has to beat the drum every night until people give and give hard to get him out of the hole he put himself in. That's become the problem. He had a decent take for someone running a smaller channel, $1,500 or so in the night for his fundraiser with Rancor. That's before his matching funds go in, since he promised to hit up his own checkbook to come up with the matching funds as incentive to get people to donate. He's on the hook for the rest of the $4,500 he owes Rancor's lawyer anyway. His Saturday night live stream seemed to start in the middle of his program. No intro video, no advertising. DeCastro started midstream with a talk about more anti-police videos. There was no mention of Rancor at the start or at the end of the video, and he just acted like he didn't have a care in the world, with no efforts to promote his own fundraising for anything else. You could, however, get his world-famous trifold for a not-so-new low price. Not only that, if you bought his trifold this weekend, he's gonna throw in 2 of his world-famous 5A cop cards to go with it absolutely free. But wait, there's more. If you give him your personal details to sell to a third-party company, he'll send you a zip file with all the contents of his store in digital format, so you have no reason at all to invest more in his products. His YouTube revenue, or the money he allegedly makes selling your personal information to data harvesters, must be great because he's literally giving away his products for free and giving no one any incentive to give him money. At least Colin Project Constitution Campbell has sense enough to charge for all the questionable material on his website. DeCastro's boat is sinking and sinking quickly. Instead of plugging the holes with his fingers, he's taking the gun he always has within reach and shooting the boat to make more holes while claiming to be the old man of the sea, the greatest mariner alive, and telling everyone to take off their life preservers because they're a scam run by the evil and corrupt life preserver industry. Getting back to the point of the column, we won the day. Press with Rancor's fund took in $33. We took in $35. We had our wonderful returning hate watcher, we had a regular come through with $20, and then we realized we had a chance of beating DeCastro's efforts, and I asked on our live chat if someone would come through with $5 just to stick it to DeCastro. A beautiful, wonderful anonymous donor came through with that money, and we took the win. We put the URL in the chat room and asked people to participate. Chile did not. We got the win. It's that simple. On that note, if you'd like to join our hate watcher in making me report on our own awkward victories over Jose Chile de Castro and in forcing us to continue to write this column each morning, we do have a GoFundMe of our own. All proceeds go to keeping the lights on, eating, and writing new stories to feature here and on ReallyCoolSite.org. Turtle Boy versus Kate Peter, it's getting weird again. The never-ending battle between Kate Peter and Aiden Turtle Boy Kearney went to the weird again this week as Kearney is pre-announcing his appearance to prevent Peter from joining him in his turtle fun at the next hearing for accused murderess Karen Reed, and is now trying to set up a witness intimidation case against the brother of murder victim John O'Keefe. In the week or so since we last visited our subjects, Kearney responded to a Facebook post by Peter on his Twitter account that he would be holding a rally before Karen Reed's next court appearance on August 9, 2024. Because he has a protective order against Peter that requires her to stand at least 30 feet away from him at all times, including when he goes out of his way to approach her, she is now, in his view, disqualified from participating in the planned rally for the family of victim John O'Keefe at the same place at the same time. Peter could counter by getting Lindsay Gaetini to come to the event, who has a protective order that would prevent Kearney from being 100 feet from her, though Kearney could then get his ex-mistress girlfriend who cares, Lauren Murray, to come over and play, as she has a protective order against Peter to keep Peter 100 feet from her. Is anyone following this? Okay. Then Grant Smith Ellis is disqualified from being there because Kearney will bring new BFF Jess Mikado over to play, who has a 100-foot protective order against the reporter, and everything will negate out as no one can move without new charges. Which brings up Paul O'Keefe, brother to John, son of John Sr. and Peggy O'Keefe. Kearney has noticed that Paul O'Keefe is now taking a more active role in organizing counter-protests at Karen Reed's trial. The often one-sided protests in favor of Reed's people, previously led by Kearney but now led by the Roccos. Because Paul has been hanging out with Kate Peter, and Kearney lives in such fear of Peter that he walks up to her at protests to make sure the police must move her as he's in mortal danger, he has started to angle for a protective order against the brother of the victim in the case. That's right, he's apparently setting up a case to get a restraining order against John O'Keefe's own brother to prevent him from appearing at a murder trial. Kearney set it up with the following tweet. Paul O'Keefe is good friends with Kate Peter, who I'm a witness against. His recent message telling me he's gonna take me down has caused me emotional harm. I believe he's doing this because I'm a witness against his friend Kate Peter and does not want me to testify against her. Hope Sue NBC Boston doesn't receive a message like this too. He's tried to get a protective order for less and worse. He's been granted them. So now we open another bag of popcorn, dump it in our Deadpool and Wolverine commemorative popcorn holder, and we wait. It's about to get funky in Massachusetts again, folks. Tune back in for the drama, as these are the days of our size. This day in history, DeCastro admits Massachusetts loss. On this day in history, Jose Chile DeCastro finally addressed his massive loss as his federal copyright lawsuit against Kate Peter, Josh Abrams, multiple sets of John Doe creators, and YouTube workers, and YouTube Google itself, was dismissed weeks earlier. Calling it a victory, DeCastro explained that he was going crazy defending lawsuits in multiple states and jurisdictions, and that it was better that the case was dismissed in Massachusetts, as he wanted the case dismissed for 6 months, and now he could pursue charges against everyone in California, his then home state, if he really wanted to. He was also elated that counterclaims by Josh Abrams and Kate Peter, stemming from when it was a federal civil rights lawsuit, were also dismissed. In the last year, DeCastro has failed to follow up on charges against YouTube Google, his continued primary source of income, but has continued with his refiled original defamation and harassment lawsuit against Kate Peter and others in California's Superior Court. While he's threatened to sue Josh Abrams on many occasions over the past year, he seems to be afraid of the YouTuber and has been unwilling to take him on in court. Also on this day, DeCastro threatened the Cleveland County, Oklahoma Police Records Department with a lawsuit if he was not granted access to body cam footage of Jason Dollahide's recent arrest. Even though the employees he talked to explained that there was a standard 1 to 2 week delay in releasing footage if a body cam footage request was both processed and granted, DeCastro persisted in threatening the worker with a lawsuit should he not get the footage. DeCastro went so far as to threaten to hold hold massive peaceful protests, petitions, and lawsuits in Oklahoma if he was denied the body cam footage. In the end, DeCastro was denied the body cam footage for unspecified reasons. No lawsuits were filed, no protests were held, no one was petitioned. Jason Dollahide remains in jail, convicted of the crimes he committed last year. Following up on the zany world of Christopher Direct D. Ruff, the YouTuber's efforts to brigade the Mesa, Arizona Police Records Office apparently worked, as the phone number he had given to his hundreds of thousands of fans was now disconnected. Ruff was angry because the records department was requiring him to come get his records request in person and possibly be picked up on an outstanding warrant. He continued to direct his fans to brigade a new phone line he provided in order to complain about their policies. Claiming that his actions earned him 20,000 new subscribers in the past month, Ruff then bemoaned the loss of his ability to own a firearm and body armor as a convicted felon. He explained that he had workarounds and carried a BB gun, and the BB gun did what he needed to in order to protect him. A year later, Ruff still has a warrant for his arrest, but eventually got his records request fulfilled after a week of brigading by his fans. GoFundMe, DeCastro shoots blanks again. For all his bravado, for all of his never-ending words, for all of his boasts, boosts, self-congratulatory statements, egotistical comments, and drama, Jose Chile de Castro couldn't raise a dime in GoFundMe money on Sunday. We won the day again with a $10 donation from our hate watcher. They may hate us to the point of forcing us to write this column every day, but they consistently do the one thing that de Castro can't seem to find anyone to do. They donate. It's been said before and it'll be said again. DeCastro has 598,000 subscribers. Think about that. That's more than 500,000 subscribers in total. He gets almost twice as many subscribers as we do in total subscribers each and every day. Even if most on his part are fake, there's got to be one person in the bunch to throw money at him. But he's making mad money from Trifold and 5A cop card sales, yo. That's where he's getting the real money. No, he's not. Come back to Earth. Watch a DeCastro show and see how many sales he does. Real full-price sales. You can usually count them on one hand. Sure, he gives away trifolds and cop cards. Sure, he says he's making mad money from YouTube and he's rolling in dough. But is he? At this point, he's giving away more trifolds and cop cards than anything else. Just by going by observed numbers during a regular extended live stream, he's pulling in less than $100. He gets more from super chats and memberships than anything else, and that's only when his big donors find his chat and have something left over to give him. He's living in a studio. The difference between a homeless person and DeCastro at this point is that his landlord really doesn't care if he squats in his studio as long as the rent is paid every month. DeCastro is a nice enough guy to talk to if you avoid his trigger words, but the moment the rent goes south, he's out of there. We're not even getting into his debt. His studio in downtown Las Vegas costs money. His van payment costs money. He has to eat. He has a gym membership and has to get food for his dog. And whatever he spends a month for recreational stimulants, allegedly, hair product, eating, gas, and that total takes a good portion of the money he's making from YouTube each month. That's before the money for all of his lawsuits. We haven't heard about his federal civil lawsuit against Las Vegas in a while because he can't afford the $100,000 he needs for the lawyer he wants. He can't even afford to put a retainer down at this point. The money isn't there. It's been 4 days since he had a donation for the fund for that lawyer, 2 weeks since a donation for his lawyer fund only to, quote, support other activists, unquote, 10 days since his other Help People fund got a donation, and 2 months since he got a donation to go towards the lawyer he needs for his next criminal case. Add in the $1,600 and the $4,950 he's been ordered to pay Michael Blue Bacon Paratini, and the $28,500 he still owes Presley Ranker's lawyer for legal debts, and there's a serious problem. Also, the startling fact that he's not pretty anymore and he's about to hit 50. He no longer dates and rarely leaves the studio, so he's worthless hooking up his old sugar daddies with women or seeking a good time. He might consider offering himself as a substitute, but he scared away all the older women who had taken an interest in him, except Gloria, of course, and would have probably given him a good life to play out his little games of being governor and pretend to be a success. There's a path forwards for DeCastro. There are ways where he can find a way out of the rut he's in, but not until he faces hard truths and not until he finds a reliable source of income that doesn't hold his future on a quick score from a federal civil rights lawsuit that will take at least 5 years to get go-away money. We won the day again. Yay! Let's watch and see what Chili does tomorrow to turn things around. On that note, if you'd like to join our hate watcher making me point out the same thing I've been pointing out for months now, and forcing me to continue writing this column each morning, we do have a GoFundMe of our own. All proceeds go to keeping the lights on, eating, and writing new stories to feature here and on ReallyCoolSite.org. DeCastro's Sunday livestream fizzles. Jose Chile DeCastro's late-night Sunday livestream fizzled with his audience as he received no super chats, super stickers, new memberships, or trifold sales during the one-hour presentation. DeCastro went live again from his studio in Las Vegas in an impromptu review of a recent video by the Armed Fisherman YouTube channel, featuring a deposition of a police officer, featuring the officer admitting that his own personal safety comes first while on the job, framing it as an admission that all police officers feel the same way and that the power to put officer safety first was granted to police by the racist Terry v. Ohio Supreme Court ruling. DeCastro fell into familiar lines demeaning the police and police policies. New to his observed claims, DeCastro announced that a recent overturning of his conviction for obstructing an officer and interference in traffic stop established new case law. The YouTuber expressed his belief that the ruling in the case now made it clear that obstruction is a physical act and that Las Vegas versus DeCastro is now established case law. DeCastro meandered a bit during the live stream, going silent and not displaying the fire that he's known for, at one point going over 4 minutes watching the video, offering minimum commentary to transform the video in compliance with YouTube's restreaming guidelines. The enthusiasm gap was also displayed by DeCastro's audience. Despite several commercials for his trifold and his 5A cop cards, no sales were verbally recorded during the live stream. DeCastro's pitches and sales falling flat to a late-night audience made up of mainly DeCastro regulars who already had his items for sale. Despite mega donor Chevy in the room, there was no observed super chats, super stickers, or memberships during the live stream. DeCastro seemed to recognize the lack of enthusiasm and openly commented that numbers were down and that he'd be sending out only 50 trifolds from sales last week. The half-hearted call to action made by DeCastro to his audience was to go out and film the police for the first time this week. DeCastro admitted that he had not been auditing or filming the police, but would be doing so soon. He also offered his legal services to those who want to sue the police, promising that if members of his audience contacted him, he'd crowdsource for the fees involved in the lawsuit and help them sue. Regarding his eventual campaign for the governorship of a still unknown state, DeCastro made it clear that his platform was totally changing the police force and that his audience should not stop voting due to the dire political climate, as he'll need them to vote for him. The YouTuber offered no updates on his travel plans this week, after previously giving a half-hearted statement that he may visit Garrett Press with Ranker Van Nett in Michigan during his trial this week, nor did he promote his own or Ranker's GoFundMe campaigns. DeCastro is due in court this week for a motions hearing in his California Superior Court lawsuit against Kate Peter, Team Skeptic, Daniel Clement, and Michael Blue Bacon Paratini. The live stream had 3,310 views, 434 likes, and 78 comments as of press time. Benson's rage dominates this day in history. Regan Benson raged against the world on this day in history last year as she found herself investigating a single car traffic accident that was conveniently across the street from a dentist's office she was accusing of being negligent in the death of her friend Jesse, a homeless man who died earlier last year. Jesse's body had been reported by someone in the dentist's office, but no aid was rendered by anyone in the office to save Jesse's life. Benson raged that the office was a medical facility and that dentists have life-saving medical treatment that went to waste, as apparently whomever reported Jesse's body did not help in any way. The YouTuber was quick to accuse the dentist's office of negligence, but avoided saying the name of the dentist or the name of the office. Instead, she attempted to zoom in on the spot of Jesse's death and coincidentally caught the sign of the office with her camera. This established a pattern that we still see today with Benson, where she'll be upset and use any excuse to then expose the source of her anger for either her fans to ridicule or set up further action on her part. Nothing came of her accusations against the dentist office over the past year. She dropped the expose soon after the video. In the crazy world of Jose Chile de Castro, the YouTuber was asking for thoughts and prayers for Jason Dollahide, who remained in the Cleveland County, Oklahoma jail over the weekend. He promised he would be showing the receipts for his donation to cover Dollahide's rent once he turned it over to Dollahide's wife, Heather. De Castro also had some thoughts on jury nullification and contended that lawyers were looking for rich white people with high incomes who could be planted on juries to be the lone holdout against an acquittal of someone accused of a crime. He promised he would follow up on his ideas on the subject in the future. Of course, he never did. In one of De Castro's most bizarre ideas of 2023, he proposed the establishment of Island, run by the government. Anyone convicted of would be sent there to live for the rest of their lives. Under his plan, the would be provided with food, water, shelter, and air conditioning, but could never leave the island. The government would surround it with gunboats that would instantly destroy any boats or aircraft, helping anyone try to escape the island. De Castro also raged at a Fox News report on a man who stole a police car, who inexplicably threw himself out of the car while it was doing 70 miles per hour on the highway. De Castro accused Fox News of helping the police by blurring the image of the man's corpse as police approached it. He would eventually conclude that the graphic image of the bleeding corpse may have been blurred to protect children at home, but he was still angry at Fox News for it. De Castro attracted 268 out of his 251,000 followers to watch his stream live. GoFundMe, De Castro victory spoiled by LIA. It was a day of bare minimums as coincidental $10 donations to Garrett Press with Ranker Van Net's ongoing legal defense campaign and Jose Chile de Castro's lawyer fund only all dollars go to lawyers funds would have put them in a tie with their own ongoing expenses fund had a $20 donation to Sean Paul Long Island Audit Riaz's billboard truck fund not swooped in and stole the victory for the day. The tie for second place appeared to be a coordinated effort to at least tie our daily Hate Watchers donation in response to our recent callouts of De Castro for his less than stellar performances in his fundraising efforts. Despite previous boasts of being an ad executive in New York City and previous claims that he had big money donors, De Castro's recent struggles with fundraising were on display on his Monday night live stream, where he said he had to dip into his personal funds to pay a lawyer, which we assume to be Press with Ranker's attorney, as crowdsourcing did not raise enough money to cover the $6,000 needed to pay the monthly payment. De Castro stated that he paid the money directly to the lawyer, so those waiting for matching funds to be posted on Ranker's GoFundMe account can stop waiting for an update from De Castro. Despite the massive failure of his fundraising efforts on the part of Ranker, De Castro refused to change his ways during Monday night's late-night live stream. Starting hours after most on the East Coast of the United States were in bed, DeCastro was toned down in his pitch to his customers and made sales a secondary priority for the first time in quite some time. The YouTuber said he makes profit to help people. He stated that he was a businessman who was out to make profit, but he used his profit to help others. Pushing sales of his indestructible trifold, he admitted that the trifold could be destroyed if you put an effort into it, but denied that it could be easily ripped, despite YouTube videos showing how easily it could be ripped in half. DeCastro did not respond to a recent video by attorney Patrick J. Darcy that showed that DeCastro may have limits on the amount of restitution he can sue the state of Nevada for as a result of the overturning of his conviction for obstructing an officer and interfering in a traffic stop. Darcy claimed that the only law he could find allowing those wrongfully convicted to sue the state of Nevada only applied to felonies and was limited in scope of possible monetary awards to the plaintiffs. If true, this was a major blow to DeCastro's desire to win a seven-figure payout from Nevada for his detainment, which was the goal of his most recent GoFundMe campaign. In that GoFundMe, DeCastro promised to throw a party of equal value to the donations he received towards the future seven-figure payout as incentive for donors. It is unclear if DeCastro would issue refunds to donors based on this new information. On that note, if you'd like to join our hate watcher in making us take your money without hope of a refund, as I spent it on surviving, and also forcing me to continue to write this column each morning, we do have a GoFundMe of our own. All proceeds go to keeping the lights on, eating, and writing new stories to feature here and on ReallyCoolSite.org. Turtle Boy claims Peter bond to be revoked. Aiden Turtleboy Kearney broke the news on his Twitter feed Monday night as he claimed that Kate Peter will be facing a motion hearing to have her bond revoked at her next hearing for charges for felony witness intimidation on Tuesday. Kearney claimed that he had been asked by the Worcester County District Attorney's Office to testify against Peter in support of the motion, which will be heard at 8:30 a.m. local time on Tuesday. Peter stands accused of intimidating Kearney by having contact with him despite his protective order against her. Kearney received the protective order earlier in the year as he claimed in court that he lived in fear of Peter and that he felt she was a danger to his life. Kearney's protective order says that Peter has to stand at least 30 feet away from him at all times. He willingly violated this protective order outside of the last hearing in the Karen Reed murder trial earlier this month as he walked up to a police officer who was standing next to Peter and demanded the officer move Peter as she was in violation of his protective order and that he was in fear of his life due to her presence. Despite officers on the scene declining to take action, Kearney claims that there will be a motion today to revoke Peter's bond based on violations of his protective order, including this incident. Kearney apparently backed down from his implied statement that he was in fear of Paul O'Keefe, brother to victim John O'Keefe in the Karen Reed murder trial, as Kearney claims that the two men exchanged direct messages over the weekend. As a result of the conversation, Kearney claims that the two men have agreed to go on a double date for a golfing outing, and if Kearney beats O'Keefe, O'Keefe will donate $500 to Kearney's legal defense fund. If O'Keefe beats Kearney, Kearney will donate $500 to Chris Albert's D&E Pizza's charity fund. Kearney had been claiming that he lived in fear of O'Keefe's statement over the weekend that he would take him down, and speculation had been that Kearney would be seeking a protective order against O'Keefe based on this apparent threat. Peter is due in court at 8:30 a.m. local time for a scheduled status hearing in the witness intimidation case. Kearney claims he will be testifying for the prosecution at that hearing. Future Jim here. According to a Twitter post by Kearney, the hearing was held and the judge agreed to reset the distance Peter must stay away from Kearney. She now must be 100 yards away from the blogger instead of 10 yards. Kearney also claimed that Peter's bond revocation hearing would be held at the end of August as Peter's attorney appeared via Zoom due to a COVID diagnosis. Hearing today on DeCastro versus Blue Bacon lawsuit. Hours before Stephen T. Geblen, representing Jose Chile DeCastro, is set to square off against R. Paul Katrinik, representing Michael Blue Bacon Paratini, in California Superior Court, the court itself released a multitude of documents related to the case Monday night. Tuesday's hearings in the case, where DeCastro is suing Paratini, Kate Peter, Daniel Clement, and Team Skeptic for harassment and defamation, are scheduled to cover Geblen's motion for reconsideration of a recent motion for sanctions and Blue Bacon's attorney's motion for financial sanctions against DeCastro. DeCastro currently has been hit with sanctions owed to Paratini and his lawyer of approximately $1,600 and $4,500 in separate rulings by Judge H.J. Ford III. The mountain of new documents provided to us by PDocs of thepublicdocuments.com essentially concern today's trial and next week's motion for summary judgment in the hearing. DeCastro's attorney argued that a summary judgment in favor of Paratini is premature at this time, as he has not had the opportunity to depose Paratini nor finish gathering information needed to get up to speed in the trial. He and DeCastro accused Paratini and Paratini's lawyer of taking advantage of DeCastro's recent incarceration in Las Vegas in order to rush through sanctions hearings and the motion for summary judgment, knowing that DeCastro was incarcerated and could not defend himself. DeCastro only informed the court of his incarceration through Geblen last month. No notice was provided to the court or to Blue Bacon's lawyer before that time. When DeCastro had made statements on his YouTube page that he was in jail, and it was widely known that he was incarcerated by those that follow DeCastro, no official filings were made to officially inform the court of DeCastro's incarceration until recently. Blue Bacon's attorney commented on this as he claimed that he was officially notified that DeCastro was incarcerated on June 28, 2024. He then reviewed DeCastro's YouTube channel and found that DeCastro apparently had access to his email, as he had made numerous statements on his YouTube channel about his incarceration, but never followed through to notify the court or Blue Bacon's attorney of his change of status. Geblen is seeking either the denial of the motion for summary judgment next week or a 2-month delay of the hearing so he can better prepare for it. We will update the story with the outcome of today's hearing as we receive it. DeCastro announces independent press union. Jose Chile DeCastro announced that he was forming a new organization of independent journalists on his Monday night live stream. Details remain sketchy at best, as DeCastro refused to release the name of the organization until he has filed the paperwork establishing it. He also claimed that he would be releasing a website offering a sign-up for independent journalists in August. Briefly explaining the organization, DeCastro claimed it was a union and that members would be required to pay dues to the organization to support membership. He would then use the money gathered in order to send journalists around the country to cover news stories. DeCastro claimed that Garrett Press with Ranker Van Net's case that is set for jury selection today would be an example of a news story the union would cover. As an example of this, DeCastro explained that due to his current problem with raising funds, DeCastro could not afford to pay the $1,200 it would cost for a round-trip airline ticket to Michigan to attend the jury selection later today in Ranker's case. Having access to union funds would allow him to assign a reporter to go in his place and give the reporter compensation for his or her time covering the story. DeCastro then recruited an auditor named Big Mike from his chat to cover Ranker's case and promised the auditor reimbursement for his fuel costs for his drive to the court. He also implied that he would be filing for press access to give Big Mike the ability to record Ranker's trial on Wednesday. Jury selection for Press with Ranker's trial is expected to begin at 8 a.m. local time this morning, with his trial beginning on Wednesday. DeCastro is currently paying $48,000 to fund Ranker's defense in the case. The YouTuber also may be facing a major setback in his attempts to sue the state of Nevada for his wrongful detention in the Clark County Detention Center. Research by attorney Paul J. Darcy indicated that Nevada does have laws that allow those acquitted of crimes to seek restitution from the state for their incarceration. Darcy apparently found that they only apply to felony convictions and have very limited maximum payouts for incarceration based on years of incarceration. DeCastro has maintained that he will be seeking a 7-figure settlement from the state for the overturning of his 2 misdemeanor convictions for which he served approximately 4 months in the detention center. This is a developing story. This day in history, DeCastro loves Tuapri. On this day in history, Jose Chile DeCastro declared his love for the work of comedian Tuapri, who recently launched a parody channel featuring his own versions of First Amendment audits. Tuapri's channel had quickly outpaced DeCastro's in new membership and views and had gained DeCastro's attention due to his attempts to film from outside of a private law office while he was claiming to film a fishing show. In the past year, Tuapri's popularity has grown significantly, with his videos averaging over 100,000 live views per release. DeCastro's own videos seem to peak at 16,000 views in recent history, though he has had live streams hosted on his channel by Michael Eline that have rivaled the numbers that Tuapri reaches on a regular basis. Also on this day, DeCastro claimed that a woman's beauty peaks at 23 years of age. He claimed that women are unattractive and not developed below that age, and their beauty decreases beyond the age. DeCastro also stated that if a woman was attacked in public, she should not fight back or wait for the police to help. Instead, she should call men surrounding her for help, as women are incapable of defending themselves and should not rely on the police for help. YouTuber Harvey Freebird also made the news on this day as he pepper sprayed a man multiple times in an altercation over Freebird recording the man at a boat ramp in Harris County, Texas. The obviously intoxicated man objected to being filmed by Freebird. The two got into an oral altercation, and Freebird pepper sprayed the man twice as the man began to become aggressive. The man responded by throwing Freebird's camera in the water. Police treated the man for pepper spray on the scene, and it is unclear if he was arrested. Freebird was not charged in the incident. Freebird later retrieved his camera from the water. It is unclear what, if any, damage the camera sustained from the water, or if Freebird took action against the man for damaging his camera. GoFundMe, Press with Ranker takes the day. Garrett Press with Ranker Van Net's ongoing Support Press with Ranker's Legal Aid Fund won Tuesday with a $120 victory, roaring back to life with 2 new donations from 2 regular contributors to Jose Chile DeCastro's GoFundMe campaigns. Ranker's impressive haul comes on the day that he is set to stand trial for various felony charges out of Michigan involving obstructing an officer, failing to obey lawful commands, and interfering in a traffic stop. DeCastro had been hyping donations to this fund recently, as he owes approximately $24,000 to Ranker's lawyer, as DeCastro signed a contract to take on sole responsibility for Ranker's defense earlier this year. The fund has pretty much been dormant the entire year, as DeCastro ignored it due to his own continuing legal battles that have taken his attention elsewhere. With 599,000 subscribers, though, questions have been made as to DeCastro's ability to fundraise, as continued pitches to his audience promoting the campaign have fallen on increasingly deaf ears. Standing at a 9% completion rate, and with the 2 donations made the night before Ranker's criminal trial, it's odd that more of DeCastro's supporters have not pitched in. The case has been described by DeCastro as the most important case of the year for his new media organization, yet the donations do not reflect that, as there's little interest in helping DeCastro at this point in time. Also, despite DeCastro's increasingly dire debt situation, the the donors have continued to ignore his own ongoing campaigns. No new donations were recorded to his own campaigns as he faced an even heavier financial burden as he was hit with nearly $5,000 in new sanctions in his lawsuit against Kate Peter, Team Skeptic, Daniel Clement, and Michael Blue Bacon Paratini on Tuesday. Our own ongoing expenses campaign is outpacing all of his campaigns with regular Hate Watch donations. This is unbelievable as we have 428 subscribers, down one since Tuesday, and we get under 100 views per video we put out, and we're still regularly beating DeCastro and all the other auditors in money intake. This is not normal. We're currently a losing investment, a blip on the YouTube landscape, but time after time we come through where DeCastro either won't go or fails to go, as he can't find a single donor to any of his campaigns in his army of 599,000 subscribers. On that note, if you'd like to join our hate watcher making me watch horrible auditing videos of Regan Benson, Craig Hendry, and Jose DeCastro at 3 a.m. each day, and also forcing me to continue to write this column each morning, we do have a GoFundMe of our own. All proceeds go to keeping the lights on, eating, and writing new stories to feature here and on ReallyCoolSite.org. Craig Hendry victorious? YouTuber Craig Hendry returned from an extended family vacation to address his fans with news that one of his many criminal cases in Indiana had been recently dismissed. According to mycase.ind.gov, Hendry had been arrested in June of 2022 and charged in July of 2022 with intimidation, threat to commit a forcible felony, criminal trespass, and provocation. Hendry claims that he and fellow defendant Tyler Pierce were offered diversion programs where their charges would be dropped at the end of the program and their record cleared. Pierce completed his program and had his charges dropped. Hendry, however, claims he completed his diversion program and the prosecution decided to continue with the charges against him. An issue with his lawyer followed, where, according to Hendry, the lawyer wanted more money to represent him, and Hendry ended up representing himself pro se for the rest of the case. Hendry claims that he argued that he completed the diversion program, so the charges should have been dropped as agreed. The prosecution refused to drop the charges, and again, according to Hendry, the prosecution backed down when he demanded a jury trial and forced the hand of the prosecution. From the record, the charges were quietly dropped last week. It is unclear if this case is related to the federal civil lawsuit Hendry and Pierce filed against Lake County, Indiana in January of this year. In that case, the plaintiffs contend that they were wrongfully arrested and subjected to the deprivation of their constitutional rights, battery, emotional distress, and false imprisonment. They were seeking compensation for the physical injuries, compensatory damages for deprivation of civil rights, punitive damage against the officer involved in the arrest, and attorney's fees. The case recently was reassigned to a magistrate judge after the previous magistrate judge was removed for the case for unknown reasons. In more Hendry news, he attempted to solicit his fans to show up in force for his next court hearing in Bloomfield, Indiana at 8:30 p.m. on August 1st. Hendry has asked that if you intend to show up to support him, to email him first. He did not disclose the nature of the hearing. DeCastro ordered to pay Blue Bacon $4,560. Jose Chile DeCastro suffered another huge financial loss on Tuesday as Judge H.J. Ford III ordered him to pay sanctions of $4,560 to Michael Blue Bacon Paratini in his ongoing California Superior Court lawsuit against Kate Peter, Team Skeptic, Daniel Clement, and Paratini. DeCastro filed suit against the group of defendants in early 2023 as essentially a refiling of his defamation and harassment lawsuit against Kate Peter and another set of defendants that he had amended away from harassment and defamation to focus on federal copyright claims against Peter, YouTube, Google, and others. At the time, DeCastro claimed that the lawsuit made more sense to file in California as he resided there, and he claimed that all the actions involved in the case, despite evidence otherwise, all occurred within the confines of the state. DeCastro failed to serve Team Skeptic and was ruled to have failed to have properly served Daniel Clement with his amended complaint. Kate Peter was apparently properly served, and the clerk of courts ruled that she was in default for not replying to the case, though the judge never issued a default judgment against her, leaving Paratini the only defendant to accept service in the case. The defendants are alleged to have run a vast criminal organization with the sole intent to harass and defame DeCastro in 2022. Despite DeCastro's claims that all of the activities occurred in California, his allegations against the defendants involve incidents in Colorado and Massachusetts and charge all the defendants equally. DeCastro has yet to provide any evidence of either the criminal conspiracy or proof of involvement of any of the defendants. DeCastro has stated on his YouTube live streams that he was out to financially crush the defendants as he was working pro se in the case, and that all of the defendants would be financially damaged as they would need to hire attorneys. He said he'd file the case as many times as possible in as many jurisdictions as possible until either he or defendant Peter died. It is unclear if his opinion has changed now that he has hired an attorney to represent him in the case. Tuesday's sanctions apparently came from DeCastro refusing to do a scheduled deposition, as he claimed that it was too far away from his new residence in Las Vegas to reasonably travel to do the deposition. DeCastro, at the time, had not informed the court nor the defense of his move to Las Vegas, as his official address remained the California home of one of his financial backers. It is unclear if these are new sanctions, as Paratini had filed multiple requests for sanctions against DeCastro on the January date indicated by the court, and one of those requests had been previously granted, also in the sum of $4,560. DeCastro's motion to reconsider sanctions granted to Paratini for $1,635 earlier in the year was denied by the court on Tuesday, as it was found to have been improperly filed. Judge Ford ordered DeCastro to sit for a deposition on August 21, 2024. No deposition of any of the defendants has been ordered at this time. Turtle Boy claims win over Peter. Turtle Boy Aiden Kearney took to Twitter Tuesday morning to declare that he was successful in having his protective order against Kate Peter extended from 10 yards to 100 yards, though he was apparently unsuccessful in having Peter locked away for violation of said protective order. Kearney displayed a copy of the original protective order with new zeros added to indicate what he says was an ordered change. There are no court records in either of Peter's active cases in Massachusetts' electronic filing system to indicate a change in the status of the protective order at this time. Nor is there anything to reflect that yesterday's status hearing was anything more than that. Kearney had claimed that it was going to feature a hearing where Peter's bond would be revoked, later stating that it did not happen due to Peter's attorney having COVID. Again, there's nothing in Peter's case file for either her existing harassment charges or her violation of her protective order charges, indicating that a bond revocation would be part of the hearing. Yesterday's hearings for the harassment charges indicated that the pretrial hearing was rescheduled for August 29, 2024, and nothing more. Peter has made no public statements on the matter to verify or deny Kearney's claims. In more Kearney news, the Journalism Jesus spoke positively about Massachusetts State Representative Mike Connolly in a tweet on Tuesday. Connolly, a Democrat, had been the subject of conservative Kearney's ire for some time now for his differing viewpoints. That may change as Connolly posted a tweet in support of the Free Karen Reed movement, urging the dropping of charges against the accused murderer. Kearney said that while he opposed everything Connolly stood for politically, he agreed with him on one thing: Karen Reed should be freed. We'll update Kearney's claims about Peter in a future article if they can be verified. DeCastro announces book project. Tuesday night's live stream by Jose Chile DeCastro featured an extensive interview with auditor Carolina in Fort Worth and a surprise announcement that DeCastro would soon be publishing his new book, Segregation Over Incarceration. DeCastro announced that he had 400 pages written of the manuscript, which features his ideas on such things as delaying arrest in nearly all cases and providing segregated apartments for prisoners instead of jail cells. No publishing partner or release schedule was announced, but DeCastro promised that the book will be available soon to his followers as he was nearly done writing the manuscript. DeCastro's uneventful interview with Carolina in Fort Worth saw him express his ideas on the limitations women should face in the workforce. He repeated his ideas that women should not be in any roles that would allow them to dominate men physically. He and Caroline differed in their view of police officers, however. Carolina has called for an all-out ban on female police officers. She feels they are worthless and cannot compete physically to do the job properly. DeCastro agreed with her on the physical limitations of women, but said that they could be police and receptionist roles and desk jobs and jobs that wouldn't require them to perform arrests or dominate men. Addressing Carolina's recent incident, which saw her injured in an altercation with a Fort Worth, Texas police officer, DeCastro said that Carolina retained her beauty now that she was healing, then went into a full pitch for his trifold and 5A cop card, indicating that the incident may not have happened if she had his products. Carolina spent a good deal of time politely declining his products, making excuses for not using them, and offered the excuse that she was too disorganized and that she would never find them when she needed them. She eventually agreed to make laminated copies of her driver's license and proof of insurance to put in her driver's side sunscreen. She joked about taping one together, which clearly appalled DeCastro, who insisted that she have one properly laminated at an office supply store. DeCastro discouraged Carolina from suing the officer involved in the incident, as he said lawsuits do not work. He claimed that the only way to effect change would be to put him in office as governor of a state, and that he would soon be releasing a series of videos featuring his thoughts on laws and what he could change when he is in office. DeCastro also announced the return of his Hero of Ironton web series on his American Patriot channel. As Carolina brought up James Freeman, DeCastro claimed he and Freeman spoke multiple times via phone while DeCastro was incarcerated, and they made peace with one another. He says Freeman pledged to work with him in unity as they move forward. He then again pitched the idea of his journalist union, where auditors would now be renamed as independent journalists, who would join his union and pay him dues in exchange for funding and the protection that a large collective of journalists could provide. DeCastro did not address the sanctions imposed on him by the judge in his case against Kate Peter, Daniel Clement, Team Skeptic, or Michael Blue Bacon Paratini earlier in the day. The YouTuber had been ordered to pay $4,560 in compensation to Paratini and had his motion to dismiss previous sanctions denied on Tuesday. This is a developing story. GoFundMe, Jose Chile DeCastro wins the month. It was a good month for Jose Chile DeCastro, as his take for his Justice for All legal battle for accountability dominated the month, with 1 day of superstar performance upon his release from prison, followed by 3 days of above-average performance before literally dropping like a rock for the rest of the month. DeCastro's release from jail sparked the market for the month like no other. Those 4 days did more in total than the next two competitors combined. It was a remarkable achievement for the embattled activist and author, and it was unfortunate that the run ended so quickly. It's not all bad news for DeCastro, as again, for a single day on July 26, 2024, he made roughly $1,500 on behalf of Press with Rancor in a fund that was becoming a running joke due to inactivity. Other than a random donation, again, DeCastro was unable to keep the funds coming in and fell short of the $30,000 he needed to pay off Rancer's legal bills, but the brief moments of brilliance on DeCastro's fundraising efforts show that even at 50, he can still raise money when he wants to. I guess the biggest surprise was our performance for the month, edging out all of Long Island Audit's funds, 3 of DeCastro's, Rancor's, and nearly everyone else on the list. You can call us a Nepo babies, since this column and nightly exposure on the newscast helps. But we've been working our asses off bringing you the best news and entertainment we can bring you. There's also the factor that A, we have a devoted fan propping us up each day to force us to work for our $10. Thank you, whoever you are, mysterious person behind the mask. And B, people like to donate because it's a hate donation to make sure DeCastro doesn't win the day. And C, we have some lovely people who want us to succeed, whom we are forever in debt for helping out. As for the rest of the auditors, my God, just 5 seconds on your platform or graphic or something to say, hey, the GoFundMe is right here, can get you a win for the day. Put some money in your pocket and stop you from having the fundraising snot beat out of you by a channel that only has 435 subscribers. Laziness is not an option in this economy. If you want to succeed, you have to work for it. There's literally no reason why these people aren't putting an effort into it, other than LIA, who has more money than some low-level gods at this point. But they aren't, and it's maddening to see such potential wasted. Again, we're not here to mock people for making money. We have a GoFundMe since we're not making any money off of YouTube yet. We're here to observe the GoFundMe market and try to spur activity through biting commentary, a few ha-has, and whatever an addled brain can come up with to fill a page and a half every morning at 3 to 4 a.m. On that note, if you'd like to join our hate watcher in making me regret giving into that Taco Bell urge at 3 a.m. and forcing me to continue to write this column each morning, we do have a GoFundMe of our own. All proceeds go to keeping the lights on, eating, and writing new stories to feature here and on ReallyCoolSite.org. Teddy Benson on full display in Lakeside. Tuesday's hearing of the Lakeside, Colorado Board of Trustees saw the town vote to fire police chief, fire chief, and mayor Robert Gordinier after Gordinier and daughter Brenda Hamilton were indicted by a Jefferson County grand jury for a car-flipping scheme. According to CBS News coverage, the mayor approved selling multiple of the town's police vehicles to his daughter Brenda Hamilton for prices as low as $300. Hamilton would then sell the cars on the open market for a substantial profit. At hand at the meeting were activists for the homeless Regan Benson and manservant Christopher Denver Metro Audits Cordova, who had no place there other than to be on hand to witness the decision to fire the mayor and allow Hamilton to resign from her position as city clerk. Benson had a number of documented run-ins with Hamilton over the years. When accusations against Hamilton surfaced last year, Benson and then sidekick Aurora Transparency picketed the Lakeside city offices with signs mocking Hamilton for previously working at a massage parlor and accusations of getting her job through nepotism. The vendetta by Benson, who doesn't live in the town and really has no horse in the game other than the multiple verbal altercations with Hamilton, displayed yet another petty act of vengeance on the part of Benson, who has been known to dance on the graves of those people she doesn't like or holds a grudge against. In this case, Hamilton's actions cost her a job and may put her in prison. The Board of Trustees was there to go into executive session for most of an hour, then make the decision in a very brief public session that took no feedback or statements from the public. There was no need for Benson or Cordova to be there, as neither lives in the town nor had published immediate news stories on the events. Benson was there simply to live stream the smiting of her perceived enemy and to immediately dance on her grave. Nothing more, nothing less. Chomping her gum loudly as she waited for the news, then laughing giddily afterwards as her latest foe fell in front of her. Or just another day in the petty world of Regan Benson. Hendry prepares for contempt hearing. YouTuber Craig Hendry went live on his YouTube channel on Wednesday to remind followers of his hearing for possible contempt of court charges Thursday morning in Greene County, Indiana. Hendry claims that the potential charges are not because he accepted and possibly created a secretly recorded audio recording of his last hearing in his trial for charges of resisting law enforcement, obstructing, and unlawful encroachment on an investigation and played it on his channel. It was because he humiliated prosecutor Jared R. Holtzclaw in his arguments contained in that recording. As previously pointed out, due to the proximity of Henry's voice compared to everyone else in the courtroom, the recording was obviously recorded by either Henry himself or someone associated with Henry sitting near him and recording in secret, in violation of Indiana's rules about recording in the courtroom. Henry's nearly hour-long video ignored the fact that there are rules against recording in the courtroom and instead focused on the actions of the corrupt prosecutor Hortzclaw. The YouTuber claimed that the prosecutor ignored the fact that Henry was double booked on Thursday with another hearing in Vigo County, Indiana, and set the date for a possible contempt hearing despite Henry's motion to delay. While Henry did say that Holtzclaw's letter denying Henry's motion to delay said that the hearing must go on as planned, as witnesses to be presented at the hearing have very limited availability, Henry did scoff at the claim. Henry stated that the only witness was an assistant prosecutor who was already biased against him due to the fact that she was a member of the prosecutor's team. Thursday's hearing is apparently to meet with the judge to determine whether Henry should face a hearing for indirect contempt of court. Henry's bravado aside, it is still not permitted to record the courthouse, and Henry playing the secretly recorded audio from the trial multiple times on his channel flies in the face of those rules. If found guilty of contempt of court, Henry could face fines and jail time that are not included in the jail time he is facing for the original charges. Contempt is treated as a separate act, with a separate hearing and separate punishments from his current trial. Henry invited all of his family, friends, and viewers to join him at Thursday's hearing and promised a brunch gathering meet and greet as soon as the event completed. Bacon documents deliver devastating blow to DeCastro. Michael Blue Bacon Paratini delivered a devastating blow to claims by Jose Chile de Castro that he doesn't have a criminal record by releasing documents for proof of DeCastro's history of arrests on Tuesday. The documents, declarations of both Paratini and his lawyer R. Paul Katrinek, show an extensive criminal history dating back to the 1990s. While not all of the charges resulted in convictions, and some are still under seal, the snapshot of DeCastro's life paints a picture of a person who was out of control at an early age, with multiple protective orders issued against him for threatening behavior. While DeCastro occasionally slips and says no criminal record in this decade, even that isn't true, as there are multiple harassment prevention orders against him, starting as early as 2021. We now present to you Pance's reading of R. Paul Katrinek's declaration, presented without alteration.
In the Superior Court of the State of California, in and for the County of Los Angeles, filed July 30, 2024. A declaration of R. Paul Katrinek in support of defendant Michael Paratini's reply to opposition to defendant's motion for summary judgment, or in the alternative, summary adjudication. I, R. Paul Katrinek, declare as follows. I am an attorney duly licensed to practice law before all courts of the state of California. My law firm is counsel for defendant Michael Paratini in this action. The following facts are within my personal knowledge, and if called as a witness herein, I can and will competently testify thereto. Plaintiff's counsel will not say plaintiff has no criminal and civil records in California, Nevada, Washington, Ohio, Massachusetts, Alaska, and Oregon. The plaintiff's long criminal history. I hired GG and Associates to conduct an investigation on plaintiff, wherein it was discovered that plaintiff had various criminal and civil charges against him. Plaintiff's criminal charges included harassment, obstructing and resisting a peace officer, trespassing and disorderly conduct, criminal threats, giving false information to police officer, stalking, and theft in the second degree. GG and Associates found a total of 29 criminal and civil charges against plaintiff. I personally went to the various court websites and downloaded the documents in the attached request for judicial notice. On September 25, 1993, plaintiff was charged with stalking and disorderly conduct, to which plaintiff pled guilty. On December 13, 1993, Plaintiff was charged with theft in the District Court of the State of Oregon, to which plaintiff pled guilty. A bench arrest warrant was made for plaintiff's failure to appear as directed. Thereafter, plaintiff violated the conditions of probation by failing to attend theft talk class. On May 8, 1995, plaintiff was charged with giving false information to a police officer in the District Court of the State of Oregon. On April 24, 1996, plaintiff was charged with giving false information to a police officer in the District Court of the State of Oregon. On June 11, 2004, Casey Bytheway filed a request for order in the Los Angeles Superior Court against plaintiff. Casey Bytheway requested both personal conduct orders and stay-away orders against plaintiff. Casey Bytheway further requested the judge to order plaintiff to sell or turn in any guns or firearms that plaintiff has or controls. In the request, Casey Bytheway describes the 5 most recent instances of abuse she and her fiancé, Eric Allen Montoya, endured from plaintiff. First, on June 10, 2004, plaintiff threatened to go to Colombia and pay a Colombian $1,000 to come back to the U.S. to kill Casey Bytheway and Eric Allen Montoya, or to break their legs. Previously, in February of 2004, plaintiff trespassed onto Casey Bytheway's balcony and was observing Casey Bytheway and her friends in the living room. Plaintiff threw a lighter at the door to scare Casey Bytheway and her friends. Plaintiff then ran to the front door of the apartment and attempted to get Casey Bytheway to come outside. When she refused, plaintiff began yelling profanities and threatening to harm everyone when they left the apartment. Plaintiff attempted to open the balcony door to the bedroom where Eric Allen Montoya was sleeping. In January of 2004, plaintiff attempted to break into Casey Bytheway's apartment by repeatedly pounding and kicking her front door. Plaintiff cracked Casey Bytheway's front door in the process. Plaintiff then broke through 4 sheets of plexiglass covering Casey Bytheway's apartment balcony and attempted to open the balcony door, during which plaintiff was threatening to kill both Casey Bytheway and Eric Allen Montoya and to tamper with their vehicles. Casey Bytheway sustained bruises on her hip and leg from attempting to hold her front door shut from plaintiff's kicking. Lastly, in October 2003, plaintiff broke into Casey Bytheway's apartment through her balcony door. Plaintiff threw Casey Bytheway against a wall, spat on her face, and choked, hit, and kicked her. Plaintiff assaulted Eric Allen Montoya. Plaintiff was yelling profanities and threatening to kill Casey Bytheway and Eric Allen Montoya the entire time. Additionally, plaintiff destroyed Casey Bytheway's personal property and kicked a hole in her bedroom door. That evening, plaintiff stayed inside Casey Bytheway's parking garage waiting for Casey and Eric to come and go. On June 11, 2004, Casey Bytheway filed a domestic violence prevention action against plaintiff in the Santa Monica courthouse. On July 13, 2004, Eric Montoya filed a civil harassment action against plaintiff in the Santa Monica courthouse. On August 27, 2007, Michael Henson filed a civil harassment action and temporary restraining order against plaintiff in the Burbank courthouse. On November 14, 2007, Casey Bytheway filed yet another restraining order against plaintiff. Casey Bytheway requested personal conduct orders, stay-away orders, and for plaintiff to be taken under submission for attorney fees. On December 4, 2015, Francis Koenig filed a civil harassment prevention action and temporary restraining order against plaintiff in the Stanley Mosque courthouse. On January 3, 2018, Lawrence Weiner filed a small claims action against plaintiff and plaintiff's corporation, Ethics SCS Incorporated, in the Pasadena courthouse. On September 23, 2021, Dinah B. Chavez filed a civil harassment protection order and temporary restraining order against plaintiff in the Stanley Mosque courthouse. On August 31, 2022, in a letter to opposing counsel, The Disciplinary Council of the Supreme Court of Ohio stated that plaintiff engaged in the unauthorized practice of law by drafting what purported to be a power of attorney and instructing another person to sign it. Disciplinary Council notes multiple unsuccessful attempts to reach plaintiff. The letter further states plaintiff has an active warrant for his arrest in Lawrence County, Ohio. For these reasons, Disciplinary Council concludes that service on plaintiff will be unlikely. On October 17, 2022, Daniel Clement filed a civil harassment protection action and temporary restraining order against plaintiff in the Van Nuys Courthouse East. On January 6, 2023, Michael Peratini filed an anti-harassment protection order with the District Court of Washington, County of Pierce. The order included the following restraints: no contact, as well as exclude and stay away. On March 15th, 2023, plaintiff was arrested by the Las Vegas Metropolitan Police Department. Plaintiff approached the driver of a detained vehicle. Officer Bork, who was conducting the traffic stop, told plaintiff he can continue recording, but had to stay away from the detained driver. Plaintiff continued video recording with his cell phone and did not move. Plaintiff advised Officer Bork that he is a constitutional law scholar. Plaintiff refused to move or back away from the detained driver. Officer Bork told plaintiff that he is being detained and to go to his patrol vehicle. Plaintiff told Officer Bork not to put his hands on him. Plaintiff was being physically uncooperative, argumentative, and disobeying lawful commands while being detained. Plaintiff refused to approach the patrol vehicle after being instructed to do so various times. Plaintiff again declared himself to be a constitutional law scholar. Plaintiff refused to comply with Officer Bork's verbal commands or escort. Upon being handcuffed, plaintiff admitted that he had been arrested 4 times previously for similar crimes in various states. Plaintiff was cited and booked for refusing to give the officer reasonable space to work, refusing to obey lawful commands after being advised that he was detained, swatting Officer Bork's hand away, physically tensing up his body, physically resisting handcuffing by tensing up his arms, and being physically uncooperative with officers. On February 26, 2024, plaintiff was charged with harassment, telephone misuse, and electronic communications harassment in the District Court for Hartford County. Plaintiff's recent incarceration and production of his YouTube channel from jail. Counsel for the defendant only learned that plaintiff was allegedly incarcerated on June 28, 2024. After receiving this information, I personally reviewed his YouTube channel. He plainly had access to his email and is playing games once again. He was producing shows regularly from jail. Below is his YouTube channel, link included. It will certainly be disingenuous for plaintiff to claim ignorance of the service of documents and the inability to litigate this case prior to counsel substituting in. He produced 78 YouTube videos while in jail, which is almost 1 video a day. He had access to his computer, access to his email, and certainly the ability to litigate this matter prior to counsel substituting in. I personally looked at the video of the sentencing upon receiving notice from the counsel that he is in jail, and his conduct was outrageous. DeCastro got lucky at the district court level, and if it goes to the Court of Appeal, his conviction will be reinstated. A municipal court judge sentenced DeCastro in Nevada, and a district court judge overturned that conviction. DeCastro has called his conviction frivolous, but it is anything but. We are not addressing the incorrect claims that his conviction was frivolous in the objection. Suffice it to say that a prominent First Amendment lawyer has explained why, if the district attorney appeals, his conviction will be reinstated. See the videos linked here. Chili DeCastro's appellate quote-unquote win can be reversed. He consented to the quote-unquote illegal detention. DeCastro's transcript did not garner sympathy from the Nevada Court of Appeal, should the district attorney decide to appeal. DeCastro called the court bailiff a pig. As noted in the description, he even called the marshal a pig in front of the judge. DeCastro called the bailiff a pig, and the judge said, "What did you say?" DeCastro responded, "I said he," the bailiff, "is a pig. I declare under penalty of perjury under the laws of the state of California that the foregoing is true and correct. Executed by me this 30th day of July, 2024, in Los Angeles, California. Signed, R. Paul Katrinak."
GoFundMe Press with Rancor takes Thursday. A handful of late donations helped Garrett Press with Rancor Van Nett win Thursday's GoFundMe title with a $95 haul based on donations made during Jose Chile DeCastro's live stream announcing Van Nett's conviction of felony obstruction and resisting charges in Michigan. Van Nett's win was powered by DeCastro fan Gloria A.D., who spammed DeCastro's chat during the live stream with reminders to donate. Her efforts ultimately resulted in 3 donations, including one by Gloria herself, to bring Rancer to the $95 win. The win demonstrates how reliant Van Nett has been on DeCastro. Not only is DeCastro in the process of paying $48,000 in legal bills on Van Nett's behalf, but he also spearheaded the defense, with attorney Jim Mikowski parroting theories that DeCastro has spread over the past year. Van Nett came off as a pawn in his own trial as DeCastro dominated every aspect of the case without bothering to have Van Nett speak for himself. And later he blamed Van Nett for the loss in court for standing his ground with the police, something DeCastro abdicated to do, as that was what DeCastro claimed lost the case for him. In funding news, DeCastro claimed that he never withdrew the roughly $4,000 in Van Nett's fund, so he announced the decision that the fund would be used to start Van Nett's appeal. It's unclear if DeCastro made the decision on his own, or if Van Nett was involved in the decision to move forward with the appeal. Mikowski made it clear on DeCastro's live stream that he was not an appellate attorney, so he would only be representing Van Nett at his sentencing. DeCastro would need to hire a new attorney on Van Nett's behalf to handle the appeal, and Van Nett would need to heavily rely on his GoFundMe and more direct donations to DeCastro to handle starting over with a new attorney. Long Island Audit's Support the Fight Against Tyranny and Corruption campaign came in second for the day, ending a long streak without a donation, and our own ongoing expenses fund took in third for the day with a $25 haul. On that note, if you'd like to join our hate watcher in making me wonder why Pants is apparently living in my crawl space to spy on me as he, she, they force me to continue to write this column each morning, we do have a GoFundMe of our own. All proceeds go to keeping the lights on, eating, and writing new stories to feature here and on ReallyCoolSite.org. Hendry puts prosecutor on notice. Craig Hendry issued a threat to prosecutors after he was not jailed on Thursday for contempt of court, as what he thought was a contempt of court hearing overseen by the prosecutor in the case turned out to be a preliminary hearing to set up the contempt of court case on August 15th. Hendry originally believed that prosecutor Jared D. Holtzclaw was working on his own in filing the hearing to determine whether there would be a hearing for contempt of court. He had accused Holtzclaw of acting as the judge in the case and overruling a request by Hendry to delay the hearing due to a conflict. Addressing this, Hendry apologized to Holtzclaw as the motion to reschedule was in fact overruled by the judge in the case, and Hendry simply had not yet received notice of the ruling. Turning his attention to the recording that Hendry aired on his channel that recorded a previous hearing in the case, despite a judge's order against recording in the courthouse, Hendry claimed that since Indiana and Illinois share a federal district court, then rules in Illinois should apply to Indiana. He found the case of People v. Clark in Illinois, which he claims establishes that recordings are media, and media are a tool of the press and should be protected. It did not, however, establish that an Illinois lawsuit would impact anything to do with the Indiana case. Hendry also admitted that he has a poor memory and that a personal recording of the hearings should be allowed to help him prepare for future hearings. Admitting that he was confused at one point when the judge and the prosecutor asked him what rights he thought were violated by the judge's ruling against filming in the courthouse, Hendry said freedom of the press. Despite the press having the ability to record in the court after filing for permission to do so with the judge in advance. The YouTuber put prosecutor Hortzclaw on notice that he was now armed with the Illinois ruling and would be able to prevail at the next hearing set for August 15, 2024. He also claimed he would be consulting an attorney who may take over the case. Hendry's call to action for fans to come to the hearing and a show of force resulted in 3 fans arriving to support him in person, along with Hendry's longtime friend Tyler Pierce and members of his family, including Henry's 2-week-old daughter. Press with rancor found guilty. Jose Chile de Castro's efforts to raise $48,000 to fund Garrett Press with Rancor Van Net's legal defense were in vain, as Van Net was found guilty of obstruction and resisting on Thursday in Michigan State Court. Van Net took up auditing on the recommendation of de Castro, as he watched a few of de Castro's videos before going out on his own, often stopping his car to approach police officers involved in traffic stops late at night. The imposing Van Net, standing well over 6 foot tall and possessing a low but gravelly voice that some have described as frightening, would appear out of the dark and refuse to cede ground to the police officers as he filmed, claiming that obstruction was a physical act and the police had no rights to stop him from recording their actions. Van Net always followed the instructions and procedures taught to him by de Castro's videos. He was aggressive, he stood his ground, and he would attempt to dominate the police officers even after his arrest, parroting de Castro's questionable beliefs in the law to the officers. In the arrest that was the basis of Thursday's trial, Van Net refused a direct order by the arresting officer to back away from the crime scene 15 times before taking a perceived step forward, which resulted in his arrest. De Castro interviewed Jim Mikowski, the lawyer he hired to represent Van Net, and YouTuber Big Mike Audits, who he provided gas money to cover the case, during the livestream. De Castro did not feature Van Net on the livestream, as he described drama between the two, but did not specify what was going on other than Van Net would not be appearing. Mikowski said that because of the makeup of the jury pool in the heavily blue area, the outcome was stacked against Van Net. Blue is de Castro's latest term for heavily conservative or police-supporting communities. The racial, social, or political backgrounds of the residents no longer matter. If they back the police, they are simply known as blue. The attorney indicated that he thought he had 2 jurors who would side with Van Net, but it did not play out that way, as the jury unanimously found Van Net guilty. He said that he would represent Van Net at the sentencing hearing, and Van Net currently faces up to 2 years in state prison. Mikowski cannot represent Van Net in the appeal, as he is not an appellate lawyer. As de Castro decided that he would be appealing the case without apparently consulting Van Net, Mikowski said he would be putting de Castro in touch with a lawyer friend who handles all of Mikowski's appeals cases. De Castro then said he would be looking at attorneyssuperlawyers.com to find Van Net an appeals lawyer. Once Mikowski had left the stream, de Castro questioned Big Mike if he thought that Mikowski threw the case or was just in it for the money. Big Mike vouched for Mikowski and said that he seemed like he was trying his best to represent Van Net during the trial, pointing out that Mikowski drove over 400 miles each way to represent Van Net. De Castro seemed satisfied with Big Mike's answers about Mikowski's competency and renewed his pledge to pay the $24,000 he still owes the attorney for Van Net's defense. On that note, De Castro now claims that he's not touched the $4,000 in Van Net's GoFundMe account. He currently paid $3,000 to Mikowski out of donations sent to him directly to his Cash App, PayPal, and Venmo accounts, and would be able to fund the $1,000 needed for Mikowski to get the transcript of the proceedings to move forward with the appeal. Van Net's case will be reviewed by the Department of Corrections, and he will be interviewed by the department to determine what sentence they will recommend. Van Net's past felony convictions will be a factor in determining the sentence. De Castro urged his fans to petition the judge in the case for leniency, as it was a victimless crime with no damages and just annoyed police officers. Ignoring the felony status of the crime, DeCastro was determined that Mikowski would find a way to keep Van Nett out of jail. GoFundMe Forgotten DeCastro Fund takes the day. The long-forgotten legal defense fund crime scene tape illegal arrest campaign run by Jose Chile DeCastro took the GoFundMe title for Friday with the $150 haul, bringing it to a total of $2,465 out of a goal of $30,000 after 2 donations by fans of the controversial YouTuber. The fund was set up very early in the year and was intended to supply DeCastro with funding to fight his arrest from February of this year, where he crossed police line tape to confront police officers in downtown Las Vegas who were working the scene of a fatal car accident. There is no real explanation for the 2 seemingly random donations, as DeCastro hasn't been live and DeCastro did not promote the fund while he was in jail or since he's been released. The fund's last donation before Friday came on May 23, 2024, with a seemingly random $20 donation. The fund may be one to watch as DeCastro's next hearing in the case that sparked the need for the fund comes on August 13, 2024. While it's just a preliminary hearing, DeCastro has hired an expensive lawyer to represent him in the case, recently explaining that he put up $15,000 out of the flat fee of $25,000 he negotiated with the lawyer to take the case. Our ongoing expenses fund took second place for the day with a $10 haul from our hate watcher. In a surprise twist, the fund for DeCastro protege Garrett Press with Ranker Van Nett received no donations or promotion from DeCastro. While DeCastro briefly mentioned it on Thursday's live stream, and moderator Gloria AD promoted it on her own and even donated to it, he is not actively campaigning for the fund. DeCastro has gone radio silent since Thursday, apparently focusing on other things in his life after the conviction of Van Nett for felony obstruction and resisting arrest charges on Thursday in Michigan. Likewise, promotion of the fund, apparently at least temporarily, ended on Thursday. Based on DeCastro's account of recent events, the men are currently experiencing drama in the background as Van Nett declined to appear on DeCastro's live stream following his conviction. While Van Nett apparently created the fund, DeCastro has claimed he has full access to the money in the fund and will be using it to pay for Van Nett's appeal. It is unclear whether or not the YouTuber discussed this decision with Van Nett before announcing it on the air. On that note, if you'd like to join our hate watcher and make me wonder if Van Nett appearing out of the dark to take me to the fairy world and replace me with a fae child would be better than to continue to write this column each morning, we do have a GoFundMe of our own. All proceeds go to keep the lights on, eating, and writing new stories to feature here and on ReallyCoolSite.org. Wallace Columbia fundraiser fizzles again. Floyd Wallace's attempt to hold a fundraiser on Wednesday for his impending trip to Columbia fell $145 short of the $150 he needed during the fundraiser, prompting him to end things early. Wallace was seeking the $150 to enable him to buy a round-trip ticket to Columbia. His planned departure date was August 15, 2024, the day after jury selection is scheduled in his criminal trial for obstructing an officer in Oklahoma. Despite Wallace's previous statement that he would have a lawyer simply change his hearing date to accommodate his travel plans, the date is still in the state of Oklahoma's court system, and Wallace is expected to go on trial on August 15th, the day after jury selection. Wallace said he needed to upgrade his laptop, camera equipment, hotspot, and phone. He was looking into an iPhone 11 as an upgrade as he was too broke to afford the current model iPhone. While he said that the $150 he was raising was going towards his travel ticket, he was unclear how he'd be able to afford to upgrade the rest of his gear. Going silent for several minutes at a time, Wallace eventually began to complain about his channel and how he was giving it another month before making a decision on it. He seemed desperate to leave for Colombia as he said that being outside of the United States would be the one thing that could jumpstart his channel. The YouTuber also spoke highly of Brazil, saying that his channel gained great fame when he was there and he regretted having to leave. He said he'd like to spend his birthday there and that he was not eligible to return to the country before September September due to visa issues. Wallace reminded his viewers that moderation fees were due the following day, August 1st, for those with his moderation tools. He also continued to refuse to answer questions from his audience without a Super Chat, PayPal, or Cash App donation. Ending his fundraiser a little after 30 minutes, Wallace promised that he'd be back in the morning, but has yet to live stream since ending the fundraiser. Glenn Serio to sue Everett crime analyst for $100 million. Sometime First Amendment auditor, snappy dresser, and YouTube personality Glenn Serio released a new video on Thursday of his attempt to serve a criminal analyst working for the city of Everett, Washington. Typical of recent Serio videos, Thursday's video began with the YouTuber explaining that he was in the process of serving his latest target with a massive lawsuit, despite the paperwork he was holding stating that it was a summons to appear in small claims court. Serio claimed that it was a lawsuit for $100 million. Serio entered the Everett Municipal Building in order to serve Everett crime scene analyst Erica Bennett, who he claimed released a bulletin about him that contained his social security number and driver's license number. He claimed that the information was confidential and that Bennett maliciously acted in releasing the information. The YouTuber apparently confused someone working at the front desk by demanding to speak to an administrator. The woman said she couldn't help him and told him to use the phone in the lobby to reach the administrative staff. After a few minutes of waiting by the phone, Serio was approached by a woman who said she worked for the mayor's office and was willing to offer to help him. Serio rejected her offer, telling the woman that she was being evasive in her actions of attempting to help him. The woman, confused by his statement, walked away and returned to her duties. Eventually, two women approached Serio in an attempt to help him. Serio announced that the women had been officially served, as his process server, assumed to be his father, Glenn Serio Sr., who has previously appeared in the role, handed them the paperwork. One of the women corrected Glenn's claim that they had been served with a $100 million lawsuit by pointing out that the paperwork indicated that it was from small claims court. She also stated that she legally could not accept service as she did not work for the legal department and was not the subject of the lawsuit. Serio ignored the woman's statements, mocking her as she left, and added a claim without proof that the FBI was now investigating the release of his private information. This was the latest in a series of small claims court summons served by Serio on members of the Everett and Mukilteo police forces, city officials, and YouTuber Tella Klein. His unorthodox and improper methods of service, claims to be suing for millions of dollars, when in reality he was serving small claims court paperwork, all have become staples of Serio's recent YouTube videos. Serio's video has had 28,338 views and 137 comments since its release. And De Castro abandons principles and press with rancor. Fans of Jose Chile De Castro saw a new shift in the philosophy of their hero Thursday night as he abandoned his long-standing call for aggressive displays against the police in favor of passive resistance and compliance. De Castro said on the live stream that his new union of journalists would be founded on the idea of working with the police to some extent while providing little to no resistance to lawful orders while on the scene with officers, saving any action for the court system. The YouTuber explained that the key to his recent arrest came in the fact that he had been confrontational in the arrests and noted that judges will always side with the police, especially when presented with an auditor or independent journalist acting as an aggressor in order to provoke the police. De Castro went out of his way to chastise protege Garrett Press with Rancor Van Nett for his act in the arrest leading to his Thursday conviction on felony obstruction and resisting charges, stating that Van Nett standing his ground and ignoring the officer's verbal commands to move back multiple times was what got Van Nett convicted. Critics were quick to point out that Van Nett followed De Castro's teaching at the time, and despite not flashing his indestructible trifold, the 5A cop cards did not exist at the time of the arrest, his actions reflected De Castro's teachings and actions in his own audits of the police at the time. DeCastro's apparent new philosophy is to treat police with some respect, to stop overtly confronting and insulting them to their faces, and act in accordance with spoken commands. He claimed that he has always stood 15 feet away from the police when interacting with them, increased from a previous claim of 5 to 10 feet, and that members of his independent journalist union would have to abide by his new teachings. Fans were appalled by DeCastro's apparent abandonment of both Van Nett by blaming Van Nett for following DeCastro's teachings, and by the apparent idea that DeCastro is missing the point of First Amendment auditing. First Amendment auditing has always been seen as a test of Americans' rights. Auditors set out to openly harass and abuse officers as a test of their First Amendment rights. The very idea of an audit was based on seeing how far an auditor could provoke an officer before the officer violated their First Amendment rights. DeCastro himself has used First Amendment auditing, based on apparently real hatred towards police, as a form of expression of his emotions, letting out his anger towards officers while testing the limits of the First Amendment as justification for his behavior. His new laid-back approach flies in the face of both of his products, which are openly designed to challenge police with their instructions on how to continue a confrontation and protect the user's rights while avoiding an arrest for over-the-top behavior. Typical of DeCastro's recent promises, his promise to put up the new guidelines for members of his independent journalist union Thursday night was not acted upon. It remains to be seen if DeCastro would continue his policies of restraint towards police, or if he'll abandon his newfound beliefs to appease his fans.